Happy Wednesday and welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we welcome Alfred White to the Wolff Den. Welcome. How's everything going?
Everything is great, Matt. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, looking forward to having a great conversation around college athletics, sponsorships, racing, and a whole host of other things. But for those in the audience who don't know who you are, give us a quick intro and then we'll get into everything.
Well, I am currently the founder and chief executive officer of ABW Building Bridges, which is a really new consulting practice that I've started after working in college athletics and a short stint in professional sports for almost 40 years. I've worked at the NCAA, the Southern Conference, Conference USA, the College Football Playoff. I've had a really charmed career, and I'm really excited about the things that I'm doing now.
I guess the first question I have is what do you make of the landscape of college athletics with regards to NIL and the portal? I think both of them have a lot of downsides, although I understand the concept behind it. I think there's a lot of downside for both of them, and when you put them both together, I think we're in a real it's a precarious spot for college athletics. What do you feel about it?
Well, I think it's there's no doubt it's a fascinating time in the history of college athletics. I think between the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, the transformation of the NCAA, it is a very challenging time for people that work in college athletics on a day-to-day basis because it's uncharted water, really. The transfer portal has never existed the way it exists today. NIL is so new, and people are functioning in that space in a way that, depending on what day you wake up, is copacetic. Other days it's not necessarily copacetic, and then it also depends on what state you live in, what state the student athletes are from. There's all of these wild cards involved, and then you've got the NCAA that's in the process of changing the kind of organization that it's been since 1906. And so it is. I saw a quote from a retired athletics director not too long ago. He said, "It's a great time to be retired."
Yeah, I was going to say you probably didn't hit because your last stint, and we'll talk about it, was with the college football playoff. So you probably didn't get too much involved with this stuff in your day to day before you left. So it wasn't really something that would affect the playoff too much, right?
Really, the only thing that came onto our turf was NIL, and it was the first year of NIL last year, and you already had football players opting out of regular bowl games. It then came to be a question about whether or not football players would either opt out of the college football playoff or ask for some kind of compensation for participating in the college football playoff. Um, Thankfully, in the one year that I was there when this was an issue, neither happened. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward.
Can, can we still call it amateur athletics or
I
student
think,
athletes?
yeah, you know what? I think you can, so long as NIL, name, image, and likeness, is executed the way that it was originally intended. It was originally intended to be an opportunity for, say, Matt Wolff, student athlete at your favorite college or university, just being able to go out. Really, if Matt Wolff wanted to do this podcast this way, it was not permitted in the past, but NIL opened the door for it to be permitted now and in the future. But with the emergence of collectives and the actual colleges and universities being involved, I suspect that the NCAA will be taking a long, hard look at NIL so long as an institution is involved in making it happen and it being considered a recruiting enticement.
Yeah, like now here's my feeling and where I think we're at. Um, I think, and I thought for many years, even back when I was in school, that these players should have an opportunity to earn money, generate whatever. Like they weren't allowed to get a job at 7-Eleven,
Right.
right? So when you what they should have done in the past is just allow them to earn some money in a way that can be monitored, and you can be compliant with something. Well, fast forward 25 years of all this built up stuff, NIL comes, and the NCAA is really in a hard place here because they can't be the ones to sort of rein in. I don't know if they have any control to rein in the NIL, but they can't be the forefront and the biggest voice of trying to rein it in because they're the ones who are put us in this place in the first place, right? So, and everyone knows the NCAA. They're kind of, I don't know. They don't do. Not a lot of people are too happy about the NCAA and how the kind of strength and rules that they have. So it's really, man, nobody knows. I feel like it's almost like, I don't know if you dabble in NFTs and cryptos. Like nobody really knows yet. We're still at
No,
the
I don't dabble in NFTs and crypto. And you know what? I also agree with you that a long time missed opportunity was not allowing student athletes to be able to um, benefit from their name, image, and likeness. What really is the difference between a student athlete and a man or a woman, a young or a boy or a girl that are in the band? They could be in the band in college and go and make money in a garage band of some kind. There's nothing to keep a young man or a young woman that's in college on a chemistry scholarship, going out and making money doing whatever chemists do aside from their college studies. Really, athletes not being able to do something that had really nothing to do with um, uh, getting enticed into going to that college or university. There's, in my opinion, and I'm hearing you say the same thing, nothing wrong with um, keeping them from taking advantage of that opportunity.
no, but I think the what being able to do that without skirting the laws or rules, the loopholes, and they're doing it anyway, right? I mean, we'd be naive to think that colleges weren't paying players and aren't paying players in some whatever, however you want to call it, to entice them to go. But I think, and that's what we see now, is that it's like you're just you're skirting it. It's black and white. Maybe let's just say this whole Miami thing with the quarterback, they got the recruit. Depending on what rumor you listen to, he's getting somewhere between $6 and $9 million. That never stepped foot on the field yet, and he's highly ranked, but he's not like the number one player in the country. Like if you're a quarterback, if you get drafted, you might get 6 million. I wouldn't want my team to pay $6 million for recruiting for a quarterback. I just wouldn't want to do it. And it seems like it's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting where football goes, because football was always this so top heavy. It's still going to be very top heavy. We might have a few extra players who don't mind, who have the alumni or funds like a Texas, Ohio State, who says they think they need $12 million a year to do it. I mean, it's like the amateur and the student part of it. I think part of that is, I don't know what it enjoys. I guess we'll have to see. I don't see any. It's interesting because, in my opinion, like nothing's going to bring down college football, right? It's such a powerhouse. You know because you've been in it at the highest level. Like, no, I don't know that anything's going to bring down college football, but people can get soured on it.
Well, I agree with the premise that nothing's going to bring it down. It is definitely um, it is definitely a favorite of people that have gone to college. Um, pro football takes in the folks that are both going to college, but also those that have never gone to college and don't really have any kind of affinity to a college or university.
And where
And
you
so
live, right? Where you live, where you grew up.
right, right. And so this is just a time that we're all just going to have to wait and see how it manifests and adjust on the fly. It's not college football as we've always known it.
You like you've worked at smaller conferences, and you've worked at the again at the top at the CFP. What's your feeling on the alignment, the bigger super conferences? Do you like things moving that way? If you were still working in it, and you were one of those conferences, competitively speaking, I'm not talking about finance. Obviously, it's a no brainer. But competitively speaking, do you want a chance to play with the big boys and maybe get into that bigger conversation, or is there value to winning that smaller conference and really being able to be sort of the best without having to be the best overall?
Yeah, I think it makes most sense for everybody to play everybody. By and large, because this turnover of student athletes that you have. Well, it used to be every 4 years, but it's not every 4 years now. It's every 3 years or every 2 years or every year for that matter. Um, and so, whoever is on top today may not be on top tomorrow. And so that's something that's cool about the enterprise of college football. And then this notion that the really big guys need to uh, take their ball and go play someplace else. I don't know that that's helpful either,
It's not
because
realistic though either, is it?
it's probably realistic, but I think they may not like it once they get there if they have,
Yeah.
ever went that far, because there's always needing to be I guess a bad guy, or there needs to be a law where in whatever environment that you live in, and right now, the NCAA can serve as that for everybody. If there is no NCAA, who's going to do the enforcement and compliance um, topics? And so if the big guys leave, they don't they really want to do the white hat kind of stuff. They don't really want to be the guys that are enforcing rules on their members. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Will the NCAA have its power 5, 10 years from now?
Well, I don't know that they will have if power will be interpreted 5 or 10 years from now the way we interpret it today.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be, um, I guess, power for certain schools and not power for other schools. Yeah, there's already three divisions, and to expect a Division 3 school to have the same type of power as a Division 1 school um, is unrealistic. And
Right.
even on top of that, a Power 5 school and a one AAA school, that's not realistic either.
No, I agree. I agree with that. I'm not a fan of the 4 team playoff. I wasn't a fan of the two. I think, and it actually goes to something you mentioned before. Like they don't all play each other. So to pick these teams based on unbalanced schedules, and I think we need 8. I'm probably okay with 16, but I think 8 would be good. 5 major, 1 wild card, and 2 uh, or 1 automatic and 2 wild card, whatever you want to see it. I want to know from you what would you like to see, and what do you think is going to happen with the college football playoff?
Well, I'll ask the second question before I answer the first question. So I think it'll expand. I don't think there's any question about that. What I would like to see, though, um, is a lot of conversation with the student athletes, because adding those games of the playoff on top of these, uh, 13 game regular seasons, when you play 12 regular season games. And if you're going to be in the playoff, you're probably going to have played in a conference championship game. So that gets you to 13.
Some,
Uh,
yeah.
and then to go and play in God knows how many playoff games, that's a lot of wear and tear on student athletes. And I think student athletes ought to have a say in some kind of way in how big the bracket is, because some of those guys are looking at football as a career, and those additional college football games could encroach on their ability to have a professional career in football. Some of those guys, when they play their last playoff game, will have played their last football game, and so to me, it commands the need for a lengthy conversation with the student athletes about what they feel like they can tolerate.
Would you have the first round games at the home at the higher seed, or would they all be bowl type things?
You probably need for them to be something like that, because these bowl games, they take a whole year to get prepared for them,
Yeah.
and then when they get their assignment of teams, now they've got a lot of time to get prepared for those teams to come to their communities. The way some kind of expanded bracket might work. You may find out this Sunday, and then in 1 or 2 weeks, you've got your first round game being played, and so you probably don't have enough time to move a lot of people to a bowl game.
No, no, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see how we do it. And then I'm okay. Football's a little bit different. They play less games. In all these other sports, we're kind of okay with the team that is the consensus best team not winning it all, because I think we're okay with it because the postseason is so much fun. I think that's what the entertainment value versus, all right, are these guys the best team? I think that's partly why these other, like basketball, even baseball. I mean, how about that story with Ole Miss, right? I mean, they were the last team in.
Right.
You go
Last team standing.
all, which is, I mean, that's crazy to think that you would. I mean, we've had a couple runs with the teams in NCAA and in Dayton, but no one ever thought any of those teams would make the Final Four. Forget about getting to the championship. Yeah, I'll be interested. Is football your favorite? You've been in this. Is that your favorite to watch, college football, or is there another sport?
Well, I think the top three are they can be my favorite on a given day. College football, college basketball, college baseball. I like them all. I like even like women's basketball, and I like softball as well. They have some compelling competitions, and it can be fun to watch.
I would do a pitching limitation in softball. I think that would level it out a little bit more, like make a team go deeper in their rotation. But I do like watching the college softball too, as well. I've been to Omaha. That was on my bucket list. I'd like to get to Oklahoma State. Which NCAA championship have you not been to that you would love to go to?
Well, you got to remember that I worked there for almost 15 years and had marketing and promotions responsibility for 88 championships at the time, and so I made it to a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really cool ones that we probably don't talk about enough. I think women, track is certainly one. Women's volleyball is one. Gymnastics is another. Hockey, lacrosse. Those are all sports that need their day in the sun as well. Those student athletes put a lot of time in, and at the end of the day, they put on some good shows at those national championships. Lacrosse is one that's it's kind of like NFTs and cryptos to me. It's a fascinating sport. A lot of
Yeah.
people like it in the Northeast, but I don't know that I totally understand it. But it's really cool.
So how do we get more attention to these sports? I mean, I know about where I am. Like in game as a Gator fan, gymnastics is huge, and track. We just swept everything in track. We got probably the greatest track coach in the history of track. But how do you get more attention nationally for these?
Well, some of these sports don't have the sponsorship that football and basketball and baseball do. When I say sponsorship, I mean it's offered by those
Yeah,
the majority of the schools. Like football is 130 at the very top level, and then you got 1AA or FCS and non-scholarship football, Division two and Division three. Lacrosse is pretty heavy on the East Coast, and then it's sprinkled out over the rest of the country. Hockey is the same way,
yeah.
and I think those sports will probably never really rival the big three until more schools across the country are offering it
That's
as
I mean,
opportunities.
we should mention Title IX because it's the 50th anniversary. Right? I mean, that's part of the reason why the Gators I know don't have hockey. We got lacrosse and actually got very good at it quickly. But it's a weird thing I watch when I follow. I'm like, well, we played UConn. UConn's in our division, right? Because there's not enough. There's not enough of them. You're like, wait, well, UConn, what? We're in the Big East of lacrosse. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah, absolutely. And you're
it's
absolutely right about Title IX. It was a good rule, law, whatever you want to call it, back when it came about. I see that there's some conversation about strengthening it, and that can only be better for opportunities for young women. And so, but I do think also though that more conversation needs to be had about not limiting opportunities for men, while at the same time making as many opportunities as possible for women.
Yeah, and but also finance is a big deal because a lot of these, if you think about, people think like every school is making a ton of money, and it's just not. It's not the case. There's a handful of schools that make a good amount of money, and that's based on the football and all the the TV deals. And but tons of schools they can't afford to put these programs and travel, a lacrosse or hockey team all over the country. So you would hope that someone would be able to figure that aspect out of it too, maybe take a little bit of the money from football or the famous people who've gone to, who did very well at the school to sort of foot that a little bit to say, all right, we'd love to see our team involved in, whatever sport it is that we're not doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. You're spot on.
So let's go right to the beginning. I'm like, how you spent so much time in college athletics? Why? Like, what started you? Why did I assume you went to college. I shouldn't assume, but you went to college. Did you go to college? Where'd you go?
I did. I went to Texas Tech.
Okay, Red Raiders. And
Yep.
so when you were done, same as everyone's got to choose. What do I want to do? What was your thought process there?
Well, initially I thought I wanted to work in pro sports, and my first two jobs were in college athletics. Um, and then even after that, my next job after the NCAA was in college athletics, and then came that magical opportunity to work in pro sports. I got to be the president of an NBA development league team in Asheville, North Carolina, and you know the old adage of being careful what you wish for, you might just get it. Definitely applied at that particular point. You only and I say that because I finally got the opportunity that I'd been thinking that I wanted, and the grass was not greener on the other side
Yeah,
as far as I was concerned. It could have been. I think the grass is greener on the other side, depending on your situation and your preference. My preference is to being in an environment that sees boys and girls go to college and stay there for 4 years and leave as men and women going out in society and being helpful.
Yeah.
On the pro sports side of things, it is purely a money proposition, um, and that's fine, except that just didn't align with my personal values and goals and objectives.
I mean, that is seeping into the NCAA. You know,
Yep.
the money is
Yep.
becoming a bigger factor than it should be. Timing is everything in life. A little bit of luck thrown in. What didn't the NBDL have that the G League has?
Today,
Yeah, I mean that the NBDL was the G League before the G League, right?
that's correct. That's correct. Well, interesting you would ask that
I mean,
question
money
because
is the obvious answer, right?
money is a little bit of the answer, but really the thing that the G League has today that the D League didn't have back then is affiliations.
Yeah.
Um, when I worked for the Asheville Altitude, I was an employee of the National Basketball Association, the NBA. All of our players were, all of our coaches were, everybody was an employee of the NBA. Today, all of the G League teams are owned by NBA teams, and so there's direct affiliations, much like minor league baseball and hockey to a certain extent. And so that was they really thought that it would be beneficial for everybody to be under NBA control back in the day. But I think they came to their senses and figured out that really um, the minor league baseball model worked best for the G League or the D League.
I think there's value in. I think the G League has, and I don't know. I don't look at the numbers, and because they're in like more remote places that don't have NBA teams, but I think there's probably some appetite for expansion there. I think there's so much talent in basketball, and they're all going overseas to play. They'd much rather come here, even if they take a little bit less money, because it's just better. I mean, you talk to anyone who lived overseas and played, it's a tough life, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of these people. I think there's an appetite for it. There's certainly enough talent. With the NBA only having 10, 12 roster spots, I think that there's value there to enhance and expand and really could be people love college basketball. I think it's just be like all-star games all day long, right? Every year there's just tons of
Well,
people who never make it.
I think I worked in it when I worked in the development league and everybody thought that no affiliations. We had assigned players based on where they had gone to school. I think there will be immense care before they go to putting teams in markets. Well, number one, teams that aren't affiliated, and right now there's a G League team per NBA team.
Oh, there is. They have 30.
I believe they do.
Okay.
And I think they will think long and hard about putting those teams having more than NBA teams, number one, and then they'll be hard pressed to go to markets that don't have a real good basketball following,
Yeah.
because what we did in the beginning, it didn't really prove out that, and maybe the Southeast was not a good place to start, but minor league sports is a challenge if you're not doing it the right way.
Mm. No, I mean, big trouble. A lot of the minor league is in big trouble. I do think it's a little bit different too. Less players, less games. It's we'll see. I didn't realize they each had a team in 32. Again, I'm in South Florida, so the heat gets the attention here, and we don't get a lot of. But there's excitement about not living in a big market to have this type of entertainment to go to, but also just to follow and watch.
Well, and it depends on the franchise, the parent team. Some of those teams have their their G League team play in their practice facility.
Yeah, I know
And
Cleveland does because I was just there.
yeah, and they really don't have it as a way to generate revenue and sell tickets and all that kind of stuff. They're just looking for court time for those players, and
Yeah,
so it just kind of depends on what the philosophy is of the of those teams.
yeah. Well, a long career in college, and now you're doing consulting with ABW, building bridges, but you're not really working with colleges per se. So, what? Tell everybody what you're doing, and I think it's pretty unique and pretty interesting compared to where you've been.
Well, I am working with colleges on certain projects.
Right.
I think the project that you're referring to is a project that I have with an alliance of 86 Hope LLC, and we work on doing some things in motorsports, particularly NASCAR. It's a fascinating proposition for me because as long as I've been in the industry, I've always noticed that NASCAR was wildly successful, and I just had no idea why and how. Um, but just since getting into this partnership with my friend Mike Vaught, I've been able to notice what it is about NASCAR that makes it so successful, so popular with their fans, so popular with their uh, with their sponsors. It's really amazing, and we're working on trying to I guess spread the gospel as much as we can about NASCAR to more sponsors and getting more companies involved. One of the really cool things that they do among others is promote business to business. But you need to be a sponsor of one of their race teams first, and be a sponsor of one of their drivers. But once you get into the circle, they those teams will do business with their sponsors. They
Head to
promote.
toe, right? Head to toe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's I find it amazing and fascinating, and I don't know why more people haven't done it more over the years there. But I'm glad to be working on this project now, and I'm learning something new about it. Seems like every day, and so it's really cool.
You see the NBA, they're starting to let their jerseys be, advertised on. So it's a matter of time before I think uh, it starts to grow. Maybe not head to toe, but a little bit more like I think the Clippers have Bumble, the dating app, or
Yep, yep,
Tinder, or something like
right,
that.
right.
Crypto and all of that. It's cool. I think it's cool. I love. I like jerseys and just I think it's cool to have that stuff on there. It's all good merchandise too, right? And you start changing the merchandise. You can tweak the littlest thing, and we're like, hey, we got new merch. And we
Yeah,
got.
absolutely.
But sometimes I wear my old stuff just out of stubbornness. I'm like, yeah, I've been a fan 20 years. I'm gonna wear my old jersey. I don't care if the player's on the team or not. He's probably retired anyway. Um, so you're still working a lot with the colleges. What sort of things do you concentrate on, or would you say is in the wheelhouse for ABW?
So it really depends on what someone needs, and when I talk about building bridges, I fully understand that everybody is coming from a place and they're trying to get to another place, and so that's really the impetus for building bridges. I want to help people bridge from where they are to where they want to be, and one school may need help with finding a multimedia rights holder. Another school might need help with finding a track coach. Another school may need help with building out a strategy for a problem that they might have in their department. Being a resource for cobbling together a team of people to help somebody solve a problem is something that I get a big kick out of, and really I get a kick out of seeing the success that comes from having my team that's giving help somebody be successful.
What is you spent so much time working for organizations, some pretty big organizations, even if they weren't big in numbers. What's been the best slash easiest thing about being on your own, and what's been sort of the worst or hardest, biggest difference, challenge of being on your own as opposed to working with the because when you call from, hey, this is Alfred with the CFP, okay, I'm listening, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that is definitely a challenge. Not only that, but also, I started this from scratch on February the 7th. My last national championship game with the CFP was January 10th in Indianapolis, and I did not spend any CFP time working on this business that I was going to start. So I came back to Dallas after the January 10 national championship game and wrapped up everything that needed to be wrapped up around the national championship game. And then my last day was February 4th. I was in a car driving to Kansas City on February 5th. And February 7th, I started in earnest working on this new business
But in your was it in your mind and you just didn't do it, or you just that's when you came up with it?
I was always in my mind. I just didn't. I just didn't feel right about being on CFP time and working on ABW. It was actually ABW Consulting at that point.
Yeah.
I've since changed it to ABW Building Bridges. But I didn't. I was brought up by some good mentors in the industry that always taught me to finish strong, and don't start working on the new job until you finish the old one. And so that stuck with me all these years, and I'll probably do that forever. You
Did
know,
you
and you're right. Picking up the phone and calling somebody and saying I'm with the College Football Playoff or Conference USA or NCAA, um, that definitely is an easy thing to do, um, and without I've got some wonderful relationships still, and there are still people that will take my call when I call, but not having a major organization behind me is definitely a hindrance, but it's certainly not a roadblock. That's for sure.
what's been the easiest or the best thing about being on your own so far? I mean, you're still pretty new, 6 months in.
Yeah, I think the easiest and the best thing is not working on things that I don't care to. I don't like. Everybody has a job, and there are things about their jobs that they love, and there are things about their jobs that they hate. And this particular role, I don't have to ever. Well, I shouldn't say I don't. At this point, I've not had to deal with anything I didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, you will, but it's not like it's for a purpose. It's not like I'm not working on something I don't believe in, because if you don't believe in it, you're not doing it. But there, it could be like, hey, this is what we're doing,
Right.
and it's your responsibility. So
Exactly.
I definitely get that. I definitely get that part about it. Did you think about leaving the year before after the championship? I mean, going on and doing the consulting. I know you wanted to finish it, but was it like every year? I'm thinking, do I do another year? Do I sort of go on to this new thing?
No, really, I had a family situation that presented itself in January of 2021 that essentially required my wife and I to move from Dallas to Kansas City,
Okay.
and it was only at that point that I started thinking about transitioning away from the college football playoff. Um, I didn't. I didn't really think about getting another job. As soon as I made the decision to transition away, I just knew that it was something I needed to do for my wife, and I worked as hard as I could on finishing up at CFP. And once all of the T's were dotted and the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, it was when ABW Consulting started to come up out of the ground.
Yeah, it's good. I always, I don't live life with regrets, and I think all the decisions we make sort of push us to where we are now. So I always would have loved to have gotten into sales earlier than I did, and I would have liked to have started my own company earlier than I did. But I just don't know if it would have been the right timing, and if this stuff would have fallen into place anyway. So I think, I don't think about it too much, and I think it sounds like that's sort of where you're at with this.
I don't think there's any question. I think the time was right, and not only was the timing right, but it was something that I needed to do from my family. My wife has followed me around for 29 years of our marriage. Um, she needed me to do this, and I was glad to do it.
Yeah, it's Kansas City is a great sports town too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so it's probably not a terrible place to
I've
live.
got a Texas Tech countryman here that's a town favorite.
Yeah, how close are you to the Texas Tech program? You watch a lot. You go back. Where are you in as if?
Well, I definitely watch a lot. I talk to people out there a lot. I don't get back out there to West Texas very often, but I think you could cut me open and find all kinds of red and black in me.
now you and now you're in Kansas City, so you're right with Patrick.
Yes, sir.
And didn't they just get the receiver, the Texas Tech receiver? Who am I thinking of?
Well, you may be thinking about the Dolphins got a Texas Tech receiver.
Who'd they get?
Eric Ezukama.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that Patrick was throwing to someone. I know there's a few of those. I know Burrow, and I thought there was someone else. Maybe someone drafted someone from their college. Who knows? Anyway, not important. I think that I'm a Gator. The '95 Nebraska team is the greatest college football team that I've ever seen. Who do you think is the greatest college football team?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. There's been some really good ones. Some of those
Anyone come to
recent
mind?
Alabama teams have really been really good.
Yeah,
It would be hard to handicap the best one I've ever seen though.
but do you think it's just by thought or feeling? Do you think it's probably in the last decade with some of these teams, or is it back in the '80s, '90s?
I guess I firmly believe that with student athletes being bigger, stronger, faster, I think it's a fascinating conversation to have about whether or not guys from today's game can beat guys from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah,
I just know that the kind of facilities, the kind of services that are available for student athletes today, they dwarf what student athletes had 30, 40, 50 years ago. And
yeah.
if you can go to a good program and do what the coaches ask you to do and take advantage of those facilities and equipment that they have at those places, if you don't wind up in the NFL, it's probably your own fault.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about a Mount Rushmore of college athletics? Any sport? Do you have players that stand out as were like these guys were maybe your favorite to watch even?
Yeah, well, I know those UCLA basketball teams back in the day were really good. Those Tennessee women's basketball teams were really good. Pat Head Summit. Football wise, they were when you're in sales and you're selling ticket packages and stuff like that, it could be a little challenging there. But the run that Alabama has been on with Nick Saban.
I mean, individual players. Is there anyone that stands out as your favorite to people you just love to watch?
I got you. I got you. The way I was the way I was trained at the NCAA, I couldn't I couldn't commit a whole lot of time and energy to the actual performance on the floor or performance on the field.
Yeah.
I was more in touch with services that we were providing for those young men and young women, and so um, I was so committed to making sure that I was doing what I was hired to do there, that I never really um, took a step back and just kind of observed and got in awe of people there. I could have done that with the Michael Jordans of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably could have done that with Lou Alcindor, soon to become Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So but I never did there. I never did wanted to get caught spending too much time watching the game than I was supposed to.
Yeah. Mine were like Marshall Falk and Barry Sanders. Just watching them were just so unbelievable to me. And then you're a Big 12 guy. That watching the football is like 55 to 40. They were gunslinging back and forth, and that was like back in the Ty Detmer days when these quarterbacks were throwing 7 touchdowns a game. But
Right.
against Division I Power 5 schools was
Yeah.
a little bit crazy to me. So that's probably something. We had a friend. I don't know if Brent's listening. A friend who was a ticket guy at the University of Florida and then left to do real estate and really got to enjoy being a Gator fan afterwards because he can go to the games. He doesn't have to work, and so that's probably a little bit more of enjoyment for you in the games now.
Yeah. Yeah. No question about that. No
Yeah.
question about that.
I gotta. So this is a very weird question, which we like to do on the Wolff Den. Ask weird questions. My brother talked to me about someone he thought would be a good guest. His name was Rod Black, and he is not black, and you are Alfred White, and you are not white. Do you get that? Is that a conversation a lot with you? Is that like a weird thing? Is that anything that do you ever get that question or?
That back when I was at the NCAA, one of my jobs was in licensing, and every year we would have to go before a judge and get a restraining order to prevent um, companies from creating bootleg merchandise. And so procedurally, we would have to go into these markets and appear before a judge um, the week before.
I think I know
Yeah,
where you're.
yeah, the week before the Final Four, and we had a Caucasian lawyer named Black,
Oh,
and my name and my name was White, and I am Black, and so we go into this courtroom one of these years, and we introduce ourselves, and the judge looks up and he's going, "Now you guys aren't messing with me, are you?"
yeah. What I thought you were going to say was a lot of times they give you your last name first, and they'll be like White Alfred, right? You ever get that?
No, not really, not
No.
really. Yeah, but I'll never forget that one judge there thought that we were messing with him.
That's pretty
And we
funny.
go, "No, sir, we're not doing that."
Yeah, it's the Saturday Night Live bit somewhere there. The Well, let's talk about speaking about being black in the NCAA. Is there enough attention to diversity in the NCAA? How have they handled it in your eyes?
Well, I think well, first and foremost, there's probably not enough diversity in the industry.
Yeah,
I'll start there, but then the other dirty little secret is um, there isn't a whole lot the NCAA can do other than suggest more diversity on the college campuses. Because what people don't always acknowledge is the fact that the NCAA is owned by the schools and not the other way around, like the NFL is.
Right.
The NFL owns their teams. Those owners all, um, they put their money in to be a part of the club. It's not that way in the NCAA, and so the NCAA can make recommendations all day and all night, and it's the schools that have to make conscious decisions to do something differently on their campuses. I think if more schools um, would wake up every day thinking about how they can make their campuses diverse, um, then change can take place.
But I think like if you mentioned the NFL, they have what they call the Rooney Rule. I think that's a really dumb rule because it's just you're just giving someone an interview to appease them
Right.
when they don't have a shot. Like what's the point of that? I think that hurts the cause. If I'm
Yeah. Well, and even though I mentioned the NFL, not that they've done anything great. I think the bunch that's probably done the best is probably the NBA. They do really well.
yeah, no, it's interesting. I remember the NCAA has like you said, there's not much you can do, but there's enough people that are qualified, right, to hold more positions than they do.
Absolutely, no question.
But that's it's not unique to sports.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep. I agree.
and the NCAA.
I agree.
What when we talk about consulting, it's funny. I mention this every time we talk about consulting. Is that one of my favorite movies is Hitch with Will Smith? Have you seen the movie
Itch.
Hitch?
I don't know that I have.
Great movie where he's like the date. He gives dating advice, and anyway, there's a scene in it where the guy asks what he does, and he's like, "Yeah," and consultant's like, "Hey, we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that." He's like, "I have no idea what that means," and he goes, "Nobody does. That's why we can charge so much for it." You got to see this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in all of movies. But it's funny when you use the word consulting. It's like, well, what do you do? So it's like, what do you want people to know that you specialize in? Obviously, there's a whole host of things that you can do, but is there something that you want people to know that you specialize in?
Really that whole thought process around the what consultants do is the reason why I did a rebrand, because people want to know what kind of things that you specialize in, and I feel like it's not that that it's going to put anybody on the edge of their seats, but what I do the best is relationships. I feel like I can help someone establish a relationship, develop a relationship, and manage a relationship um, with the best of them. And I think in a lot of things that I sell, whether it's a sponsorship, whether it's a hospitality package, none of the things I've ever sold in my career are things that you buy off a shelf.
Hmm.
The things that I've always sold in my career are they're kind of intellectual in nature, and somebody needs to have a relationship with me first. I feel like, and they've got to like me first before they'll buy something from me that at the end of the day they may not even need, but they want it. And most of the time, people will buy things from people they like rather than buying things from people just because they need it. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, my relationships is I'm a big relationship guy. I love networking, and it's I mean it's a huge. You got to get past that relationship. It's like bring the horse to water,
Right.
right? But but that's a huge part. It's just getting there. And for Brental like this, if I say get having a seat at the table, which is all we ask for, right? Give us a seat at the table, and then from there, I have to prove and share why we should be the one that you're moving forward with. I
Yep.
think it's really important. Do you have a dream? I mean, if you could snap your fingers and work with a team, an organization, an event, anything, is there like a top target for you that you would love to be a part of?
I feel like since I've already in my career worked on the Final Four and worked on the college football playoff, that I've worked um, on the two best events in college athletics. Um, I don't really have a bucket list of events to work on going forward. Um,
How about to
I'll,
go to? Is there an event non-college that you haven't been to that is sort of at the top of your list that you'd like to attend?
uh, Not really, not really. I've been to a bunch,
Yeah,
and to the extent that that there's something that I've never done that I want to do. I've never really given that a ton of thought. I'm not a big world traveler. I've been a lot in most of the states in the United States over my career, and so I think I've seen a lot of places. But I don't know that they're like Wimbledon or World Cup. Of course, World Cup is coming to the United States here in
yeah,
26 again. Um, but yeah, I've done Super Bowl before. I've done the World Series before. I've been at NBA All Star games and finals and things like that. I don't know that there is anything else that is going to help me scratch an itch I may have.
yeah. uh, well, we're going to let you out of the Wolf Den with the same question we let everyone go with. You can spend a day with anybody in the world, 24 hours, but you can't be related to them, and they have to be alive. Who would you
Oh,
choose, and what would you guys do?
oh, you said they have to be alive, huh?
Have to be alive, and you can't be related to them.
Wow, how about that? How about that? Well, um, I wouldn't mind spending a day with the president and trying to figure out what's going on in his mind and figuring out why things can't be better.
This president, Biden.
He said one had to be alive, right?
Yeah, no, I'd say because we've had a bunch of presidents named at the end of the show, but I don't know that it's ever been Biden. It's usually Obama. If you wanted Trump, some
Yeah. Well,
said,
Trump and Obama, they're not in office, and
yeah,
all they can do is criticize at this point.
yeah.
I feel like Biden can. He still got time to make something happen, and I'm about making things happen.
Well, all right. But if you can make one law, you have the ability to make one law, and it can be whatever you want to make the U.S. a better place. What would it be, or what would it be around? Maybe let's say
One
it's hard to
law,
figure out. One law.
one law. Well, I wasn't prepared for this here, but
Yeah.
if there was a law to do something with our economy, there, I would love to. I'd love to do it there. I don't know what it would be. I don't know what it would be there, but if there was a law that would make our economy better there, I'd do it lickety split.
All right. So you would focus. You think the number one priority is the economy, and
What's your number one priority?
oh man, it probably would be healthcare for me. Trying to figure a way to get universal healthcare, and then I think guns for me would be a second. Healthcare is probably one. I'm a big mental health guy, and I think there's just some, with health, mental health would get better. So that would probably be for me number one. I think the economy goes up, it goes down, it'll come back. And I think more people are affected by health than they might be the economy. I might not know. I'm all for the greater good, so
Yeah,
if all of them are good, I think there are people out there trying to find those answers right now. So we're putting Biden on. We're going to have just a whole host of ex presidents hanging out in one big event. I say if you get enough money and influence, you can get anyone in the building.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I think.
Well, I think with enough money in the economy, there healthcare could get better. I don't know about guns,
Yeah,
but
well,
I
that's
think
not a money issue.
yeah, healthcare could definitely get better there, and I'm all about healthcare too.
I just think there's enough. I know we're going long here, but there's enough money out there to fix a lot of the problems that we have now. It's not government money; it's private money. It's people
Yep.
that are spending money on certain things like Musk buying Twitter or whatever it is. But there's just so much. If I ever had that kind of money, man, I just always think about all the good I would be able to do for a lot of people, and so that's one of the things I strive for, is to be able to be that type of philanthropist and really help and bring about change, and not just throwing money at stuff. But we'll see what happens. We're on our way. I hope you're on your way. ABW Building Bridges, AlfredBWhiteConsulting.com. Check him out if you have any consulting needs around the sports world mainly, and sponsorships and relationships and partnerships. He's your man. Check him out. Appreciate the time. Great conversation. I always love talking about college athletics, and it's coming up. We're like 2 months away, less than 2 months away from the start of football, and should be an interesting season at the very least. Tune in next week. We'll have another episode of the Wolff Den. Have a safe weekend, fun, safe holiday weekend. What's your barbecue? What are you eating at a barbecue on the 4th?
Barbecue ribs.
Barbecue ribs. I broke my tooth. I broke my tooth eating ribs last weekend. I might have to stay away from the ribs, but enjoy the holiday. Enjoy the holiday, and everyone be safe and have fun.
All right. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Alfred.